Hey guys, it's Video Vince with the Camera Exchange. Today I have the Canon 135 f2, the Sigma 135 f1.8, and the Sony G Master 135 f1.8. We're gonna put them head to head and see which lens is best at its price point. So let's get started. So adapting the 135 f2 to the Sony body, I did notice that the autofocus was super choppy. It never locked on focus, it never stayed on her face, and I was missing shots of the model. Now that's not ideal for the 135 being a portrait lens. You always want it to be super fast and super accurate, and I felt like the 135 was missing that. Now don't take that away from the image quality. The image quality was really nice. The background was still creamy, the fall off was still nice. I was impressed with the image quality, but the autofocus is where it's lacking. So we're gonna switch over to the Sigma 135 f1.8 and see how that one performs. So the Sigma 135 f1.8 is a large lens. It comes in at 2.5 pounds. Now that's a lot of weight to be carrying around on a photo shoot. Now that is to be expected. With the 1.8 glass, they're usually a lot larger than any other aperture lenses. So on the autofocus side, the Sigma 135 f1.8 performed significantly better than the Canon 135 f2. I wasn't missing any shots, and that was something that I really truly liked about the Sigma 135 f1.8. I did notice that there was some hunting, but I didn't find any issue with it locking onto her face. So for the image quality, I love the way the Sigma 135 looked compared to the Canon f2. It was sharper, the background was a lot more creamier, the bokeh was phenomenal. We're gonna test out the Sony G Master next, and I'll tell you how that one looks afterwards. Alright, so shooting with the Sony G Master 135 1.8, I definitely felt it to be a lot more comfortable than the Sigma 135. It felt a lot more lighter. I didn't feel like it was holding me down in any way. It felt a lot more comfortable with the aperture dial being up top. It felt a lot easier to make those adjustments on a snap. Now for the autofocus, I felt it to be everything that you want in an autofocus system. Fast and accurate. I never felt like I missed a shot. I never felt like it was hunting, and it locked on her face every single shot of the way. Lastly, for the image quality, I felt the image quality to be top notch. I won't be able to tell you the difference between the Sigma and the G Master until I get to a computer later. I'm gonna take a couple more shots now that Maria's had a outfit change with all three lenses, and then we'll wrap it up here at the park. All right, so that's gonna wrap up our 135 shootout. I wanna thank Maria for being our model and doing a superb job. Make sure to follow her on her Instagram. The link is in the description below. We're gonna take these files and put them on the computer, dive a little deeper, and we'll let you know which lens is best at its price point. Guys, so we're back from the park, and right now I have the Canon 135 f2 up. I picked out 4 images that I thought were the best. They are unedited. I haven't done any post-processing, and we're just gonna pixel peep a little bit and see how they did and compare it to the other ones. So this is the first image. I'm gonna go ahead and go in at 67%. So it held up pretty well. If we zoom in at 100%, you can tell that the image is still a little bit soft. It looked like it hit perfectly on her face, but the image is just soft and it seems blurry for some reason. The background is still nice and creamy. There's not a lot of aberration or fringing on the edges. It looks good. So remember, the biggest problem that I had with this lens was the autofocus. So let's go to the next one. Same thing, at 50%, it still seems a little bit blurry, even though I shot it at 1/1000th of a second. The images seem to be a bit soft. When you're zoomed all the way in, you're definitely going to tell that it's a lot softer. So I really wouldn't worry about it too much if you're posting it on social media. So this one, we have Maria in the direct sunlight. And this one's a little bit sharper, but you can still tell that for some reason the lens is a bit softer. Even when shooting at 1/5000th of a second, it still seems to be a bit off. But the background is still nice and clean. I do see a bit fringing on the edges of her arm right here, but it's not as bad as you would think. Background is still nice and blurry. Still held up pretty well. And lastly, let's go in a little bit more. This is definitely the better one out of the other 3 that I showed. It hit its focus pretty well. It doesn't seem to be as blurry, but still a little bit softer up towards her forehead area. But other than that, it looks good. So let's go ahead and look at the other ones and see how those did. So looking at the Sigma 135 f1.8, I shot this one at an f2. Now right off the bat, I can already tell that I like this image a lot more. I just feel like it's processed a little bit better. It's a little bit sharper, and the separation between the subject and the background, it's just so much more pleasing to look at. Look at these bokeh balls, it just looks phenomenal. The separation is fantastic. The background is just a lot more blurry. It looks a lot more pleasing. Now, even though I missed the shot of her eyes, you can still tell that it's a lot more sharper here. I did shoot this one at f2, so comparing it to the Canon 135, I definitely like the way this one looks a lot more. So we'll take another look at this one. This one's at f1.8, so we'll zoom in at about 100%. Just look at that sharpness. Jeez Louise, that looks fantastic. Again, there's no post-processing on this. I haven't done anything. These are the raws straight out of the camera, and I absolutely love the way this looks. Let's go next photo. It just keeps performing fantastic. Now, like I said, with our on-shoot testing, the autofocus was a little bit of hunting, just a tad bit. Not as bad as the Canon 135, but I never felt like I missed a shot. All the shots were still nice and clean and accurate. Zoom in again. Look at that detail. Fantastic. Here's another one. So I was a little bit further away, and it still caught all that detail in her eyes. Look at that. I don't see much fringing. The bokeh in the background is still a little bit like that egg shape, but still not as bad. Separation is just nice and clean. Background is nice and blurry the way you expect it to be with the 135. Fantastic shot. Same thing, zoom in at 100%. Very nice, very nice. I'm very pleased with the way the 135 performed out in the field. I'm definitely liking the way this one is. Let's see what the Sony has to offer. Sony G Master 135 1.8. So the last lens I used it at 1.8. Let's take a look into, let's go to 100%. Yep, that is tack sharp, just as I suspected. The image is nice and clean. God, there's really not much that's missing from this shot or that lens. It's just fantastic, almost perfect, honestly. So this one is a tad underexposed, but zooming in 100%,
I was still able to grab onto her face. So the shot was a little bit further away, that way I could capture more of her body, but you can tell the separation is absolutely perfect. The background is nice and blurry. The bokeh seems to be a little bit more pleasing than the other two. I don't see much fringing or any sort of aberration. It's just nice, clean image, tack sharp. Let's go to some that are a little bit closer. 100%. Look at that detail. Again, this is unedited, all raw image, no post-processing. Just looking at the files. And man, that is absolutely gorgeous. That lens performed exactly how you would want it to perform. The autofocus was fast. It was always catching right on. It was a perfect lens. It's a perfect portrait lens in my eyes. So go to another one. Same thing, 50%. Let's go to 100%. Caught both of her eyes right in focus. It's perfect. I don't see much fringing or aberration around any of these edges. Just a nice, clean, blurry background as you would expect. I even caught a little bit of a flare here. Just looks nice and clean. Next one. 100%. I did miss focus just a little bit. You can see that caught the focus right around her mouth. Still nice and sharp. If you're zooming in 100%, then you can tell exactly where it hit. But again, nice clean image, beautiful blurry background, great separation. And lastly, so for some reason this one just looks a little bit soft. The focus hit at the tip of the nose, so the eyes are a little bit softer, but that could have just been my fault for not paying attention. The image is still nice and clean. The background is still nice and blurry. The bokeh is fantastic. Great image. Now, what would you expect other than perfection when adapting Sony's G Master lens to a Sony A7R body? It was perfect. So, if I were to choose between the main three lenses, in my honest opinion, I would choose the Sigma 135 f1.8. And that is for a couple of reasons. The price point. For $1,400, you're getting a lens that performs just as sharp as it would as the G Master lens. Again, we're zooming in on these images and they are just as sharp, if not a little bit sharper. And for that price point, you can't beat it. The Sony G Master comes in at $2,100. So you're saving yourself about $600 for a lens that's going to perform just as great as the G Master. Now, I think that's the winner in my opinion. Let us know in the comment section below to let us know what lens you like the most out of all of the ones that we went over today. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you guys next time.